Dude, hail QASWAD, thank you for taking time to hang out with me and to talk about your debut album that dropped. And I have to tell you, man, before you say anything, this album, The Dark Tales of Zarathustra, is easily a top album for me of 2025. I think the way this album was crafted and created was masterful, dude. Your transitions between songs and even within the songs of how this story and kind of unfolded was perfection, man. There was just so much amazing melody and uses of atmosphere that I have been telling everybody I can about this album. So I am really excited to sit down and talk with you. How are you doing?
Thank you. First, I am honored. Thank you for the review. I've been watching your channel actually. Great work. So I appreciate it.
Excellent, man. So, how did Belnejum?
BELNEJOUM means by the stars. Do you want me to start to explain the name?
Yeah, I would love to. Tell me about that name and how it came about.
Um, I'm originally from Egypt. There is one of my favorite writers of all the time. Used to write horror stories. He's heavily influenced by Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft.
Mhm.
And he created like a universe where there's a side where demons live, and it's called the side of the stars. And I thought it was very interesting lore to have of the side of the stars as a place or a dimension that QASWAD and all these dark stories is coming from. When when I wanted to make the name, I wanted to have it like in one word.
Mhm.
BELNEJOUM in Arabic means in the stars and by the stars. It might have dual meaning. The other thing, our logo actually contains a magic spell from an ancient magic book. So the writing that you see around the circle, up and down, are an actual spell from an ancient magic book which is banned in a lot of countries in the Middle East. And it reflects a spell of might. So it's kind of have a lot of meanings, especially a lot of dark meaning. And I do think might be the only metal band with an actual ancient spell in the logo.
Dude, it's blowing my mind just because the nerd in me and the person who loves stories and horror and magic and these tales that are like all over the world is it's just like tickling my mind because I don't think I've ever heard of a band actually incorporate like an ancient spell within the logo of their project. That's it. That's amazing, man. Where did where did this fascination and um hunger for these stories and where did this all come from?
For years and years, I do play the piano, so I compose music for a lot of years for now. I do like writing. I like writing horror stories in Arabic. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like was a combination with a lot of activities that I had for years. I do have a boring, not boring, kind of a busy daytime job. So all this stuff were on the side for years. And I moved to the United States 3 years ago. So being in a new country, not having a lot of friends, just moving around, that gave me the opportunity to sit down and just put everything together.
Mm.
It's actually an interesting story if you want to hear it.
I'd love to, man.
I lived in Northern Virginia briefly. I Someone invited me to go and see Maryland Death Fest, and I met that person. And I've mentioned that I play piano. He mentioned he plays guitar, and I was like, "Yeah, I composed one track before. Would you like
Hmm.
to hear it?" I sent it to him. That was Upon the Mortal Blight, actually. And
It's one of my
he
favorite
liked,
songs on the album.
thank you. It's my first black metal song that I ever composed.
Oof.
He liked it. He started putting some riffs into it. I really liked the sound. So we couldn't continue playing because he had other commitment,
Mhm.
but I wanted to continue exploring the sound. So album one is really special for me because it's music that I composed over 10 years and I was exploring, changing arrangements, adding stuff, removing stuff, connecting with another brilliant musicians, adding to the music.
Mhm.
So through this journey, it started with me meeting Ihab, and Ihab is another guitarist slash producer. Ihab is the muscle in the band. I'm more of like brain and heart. He's
Yeah.
like he executes everything. He plays 7 instruments, so he helps in shaping my hallucinations into more of like an actual delivery. He helps guiding through a lot of stuff, so I owe him a lot of stuff and how this band is getting shaped. And of course, all the great musicians we work with, George Claes, Francesco, and all the other great musicians that we have in the album. From
Mhm.
day one, I wanted to have like a unique sound. I didn't want to have, for me, it was kind of almost insulting and insulting for the fans to have a band with great potential and good music, but bad sound. So we working since day one with Frederick Nordstrom, who's one of my favorite producers,
Yeah.
and he was part from the entire journey. He was very gracious enough to comment through the entire thing, just sending feedback for several months before the mixing and mastering. So I'm quite lucky that I've met a lot of musicians through this journey that made me realize my potentials.
Yeah.
Because if you met me 4 years ago, I'll tell you, yeah, I play some piano, I write music sometime, but I've never sat down and put it all together. So I think I potentially have sort of a talent.
Oh my God, man. Listen, this is so inspiring because so many people, I think in life in general, they may feel like they've wasted their life, or maybe they've had a dream or vision, or not even a complete picture of the dream, but just a little bit, and they don't do nothing with that. And for you to be brave enough to share a song with somebody, right? Like, hey, let me share this piano piece I wrote. You had no idea that that little pebble that you threw in the water would ripple out so much. And anybody who watches this is going to be inspired by your story. And I think that's a beautiful thing, man, because I'm inspired. Like I would not believe that you have only been doing this for 4 years and how this has all transpired. Like I'm not exaggerating when I talk about your sound. You're when I was listening to the album today, like on the way home, you know what I mean, just soaking it up more before we talk, and I'm sitting here, man, and I can hear how um precise your riffs with the guitars, the melodies, the drums were amazing. But then you had these melodies from certain flute instruments. I don't know the name for it. I don't want to butcher it.
Mm,
But you had these melodies, man, that were dancing around. And if I close my eyes and I hear your music, it's so vast and it's open. Like, yes, I can see the guitars, I can see the drums, but then you had this, you know, these flute sounds on the wind, and the vocals were so intentional and emotional that like you painted such an amazing album with all of you. And I I'm not exaggerating with just how amazing this album is, dude. And the sound of it is so crisp and fresh and brooding and emotional. It's dude, 2025 started out with a bang. And out of all the music that I've been listening to, dude, I am so excited. But I mean, I did that review of Tower of Silence, and when I first heard that, that blew my fucking mind. I was like, "Oh my God, I need to hear more." I immediately like looked up What else do they got? What else do they got? So I'm excited to that your album came out in the beginning of the year and not later.
Well, thank you. Thought of Silence is a very special track. I actually composed it like 8 years ago. Composed it in piano, but the sound in my head wasn't in this instrument. By the way, it's called ney.
Nay.
Ney. Yes, it's sort of a Middle Eastern flute.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just
It
haunting my head that I'm just hearing the melody in ney. And
yeah.
I wanted that the track, that the ney sound becomes the leading instrument,
Yeah.
like as the guitar. And I really didn't know how much of the metal fans will like it, but I really did. Mostly, I don't care, but I just wanted the sound in my head
Hmm.
because it sounded really nice in my head. And we're lucky that, as I said, Ihab helped me coordinate with a lot of musicians in Egypt. We got a musician called Hani El Badri. He's one of the top players in Egypt. He's not the top player. So he also added a lot of stuff here and there, um, came with few ideas. But the moment I heard the intro with the melody that I've had in my head for years,
Hmm.
I almost like was in tears because I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Um,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful journey. We're actually working in album two right now, which is, in my opinion, going to be 100 tons better and stronger than album one. It's, I'm
Damn.
very proud of it. Um, Actually, I combined forces with one of my teenage heroes. Have you ever heard of the band Limbonic Art? So, Limbonic Art is a legendary symphonic black metal band in
Yeah.
Norway. There actually might be the first band with truly symphonic black metal in 1995.
Hmm.
Their composer and guitarist joined forces with me, so we're kind of working together in the new album. And I'm very honored to have like a true Norwegian black metal legend
Yeah.
joining and refining the sound and helping me shape album two.
Hmm.
And as much as I was exploring in album one, album two, there's a lot of lesson learned and a lot
Hmm.
of things, just pure improvement. Album two will be 100 times stronger.
You made such a strong splash with your debut, man, that I can only imagine what what album two is going to be like because I I believe your writing and storytelling was so strong and fresh. And it's funny because when I looked you all up, at first I think it says like based out of, the United States. But I'm listening to it and I'm like, this does not sound
Like
this
USPM.
it doesn't have like not that that's a knock on like American black metal compared to other black metal, but the sound was like, dude, there's no way. The influence of outside America, I can hear it clearly, but it makes sense now. You know what I mean? Um, what what is like the Tower of Silence? Like the stories behind the album and that particular area of the world, I'm not well versed
No,
with.
it's fine. I can describe you the album. The album tells the story of Zarathustra, like an ancient prophet and his corruption. The first track, which is Prophet of Desolation, is basically a story of him attacking a city
Mhm.
and completely decimating, killing everybody in the city. I wanted another track that kind of talks about the suffering of the people who died inside. So I
Mhm.
picked Tower of Silence, and I wanted something that describes a child next to his mother, and they're both getting killed. Because often you hear tracks about someone destroying mankind, killing mankind, but I wanted another POV for what happened. And since we are in this universe, nighttime Persia, few thousand years ago,
Mhm.
it made sense for me to research about what it's like to be killed at that time. What is the imagination? Because most of what happens to people, I believe, at their death is part of what they imagine about death. Might not necessarily be true, but like what they perceive is death, because
Mhm.
that's what their brain will show them. in ancient time Persia, they had this structure called Tower of Silence.
Hmm.
It's something that they actually used to have. If you Google it, it's structures that they used to leave the dead bodies on top of it. The part of their belief that the bodies, when it's left for the elements, the wear and tear by weather, become skeletons, that will redeem the body from its sins and it becomes more pure. So that's kind of what would happen if you died a few years ago, not a few thousand years ago in Persia. I thought as this child is dying next to his mom that he will think about both of their bodies floating there and being in top of Tower of Silence. So what you're seeing is kind of like his final moments, and he's thinking that him and his mom are floating to the Tower of Silence, and him after his death, he's aware of what's happening. And when he opened his eyes and looking at his mom, that is kind of his loneliness and his despair and kind of being trapped in this moment forever. So it's a very dark track. I used a lot of personal emotions because I've
Yeah.
been separated from my mother for a few years. So there's a lot of personal feelings into it. Um, and the track itself, he's just talking to his mother throughout the track. There's nothing else. He's just a boy talking to his mom as he's dying. And I thought it actually really perfect for the theme. For an example, he was thinking he's on top of the Tower of Silence. When it's raining, he thinks that the stars are crying for him. And this is something you made a comment about in your video. And I was like, oh, I'm glad you noticed it. He doesn't understand rain. He just thinks his stars are crying for them and for their misery. So it's kind of like a dark piece that I wanted to take out from the storyline and kind of put this perspective into it.
Damn, dude, that's heavy. Holy shit. Oh, I you could feel that, man. You could feel it right away. And the that melody that you said you really wanted to capture when it starts out with that song, it that melody is so alive and breathing. It's so much more than just like a sound. And for me, I'm a very visual listener, so like I'll hear something, but then the music is always painting a picture in me. So the way you're describing, it makes sense now. Like this perspective of this little boy, the stars are crying for him. It's all from this innocent perspective, and that's so brilliant, man. And it's such good storytelling, dude, that you were able to portray that so effectively.
Thank you. There's a lot of children in the album. There's another child in one of the other tracks,
Hmm.
in the darkest aquarium, and it tells a story about a little girl trapped in an aquarium forever. When Zarathustra was basically in hell, and hell in that religion, in this perspective, is just basically dark waters and dark aquarium because in Zoroastrian religion, fire is holy, so fire is good,
Mm.
and his version of hell was underground when there's a lot of really dark aquariums. It comes from a dream. I don't know if you're interested to hear about the
Dude,
dream.
I'm
It is
soaking this up.
a personal dream when I had a dream that I was in a theater and instead of the screen there was this big glass aquarium and behind me over in the upper balcony there were dark shapes that I didn't know what they are, but I know they were scary. And I saw a girl being thrown into the water and suffocating, and the creatures were cheering for that. They were very happy,
Mm.
and I was trapped into this for not able to go out or leave or anything. That's one of the darkest dreams I've ever seen because I was
Yeah.
watching a girl suffocating until she died. And I woke up and I wrote this track. And I wanted an interesting start for the track, so I used Aquarium, which is a famous classical music piece,
Yeah, I could recognize it.
and I mixed it into the track. So I do use a lot of my own personal fears and trauma into the music. I only
Mhm.
write music when I'm emotionally stressed. Definitely no commercial reasons for me to write music. So you're listening to a lot of my personal trauma, fears, and anxiety. So it's a therapy for me.
That makes sense, man, because like I said, the album has a very emotional feel. It's more than just really good symphonic black metal. Anybody that has a soul is going to listen to this and go, dude, there's a heaviness to these sounds. There's a heaviness, especially, the vocal performance. You feel a lot of pain in that voice. Um, and it's very you guys have a really good unique sound. I haven't heard an album like this in a very long time, man. Like this is really kind of a standalone, which is nice. It's fresh, Your character, or you know uh Kaswad. You're
Yeah.
so Kiswad, what is he? What is it?
I do think it's more of a dark entity.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of a storyteller. Um, uh, the next album still will be also another story, so it will be in the same dark universe.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted an interesting character that the project centers around it. Since
Mm-hmm.
I compose all the music, and I know that in the future albums, mostly planning to keep the same lineup, but potentially I might change some of the lineup. So I wanted something interesting visually. I do think my day-to-day look is definitely boring for a symphonic black metal band. So I was kind of researching into it, trying to think what would this entity will be, and I decided like it's just black. That's why the name is as black, and it's just kind of like a black presence that just comes
Yeah.
from another dimension, similar to like what I've mentioned about the name of the band. I again, I think I'm experimenting a lot of this. I don't know what will be the fans' reaction when we go and play live, but I do think it's definitely more interesting than my day-to-day look.
I was gonna ask, is there live shows in the future?
After album two, I believe I'm gonna do few shows. It's gonna be my main focus after I finish album two and publish it to go live.
Yeah.
Um, that's my thoughts. I'm going to release very few albums. I don't think I'm gonna release beyond 2 to 3 albums. I want this to be my legacy, and I want it to be just when I need to say something. I don't believe to write music just to write music. I write music when I really want to say something. Last
Mm.
2 years, I had a lot of health issues, surgeries, isolation, depression. So I wrote 9 songs just in this atmosphere, and that's why I think it's going to be my masterpiece. Because when I wrote album one, there was a lot of years between tracks. I didn't know what's gonna be the sound. When I wrote album two, now I know the sound. Now I'm more able to express the darkness in my head in a better way.
What do you think you're trying to tell people?
Um, Different kind of POV. I do think when you listen to black metal traditionally, there's a lot of like North European point of view that you're hearing. You're hearing more Scandinavian stories. You're hearing a lot of folk tales from around that area. I want to kind of share the POV of someone from my background in a dark note. For some reason, all the music you hear from the Middle East for now, I'm talking metal specifically,
Mm-hmm.
have this kind of like happy beats into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like a belly dancing like.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like some of these bands, but I do know that in our culture, we have like way darker, heavier sound, way darker, heavier tales and folk tales. And I want to use this to express some of my own personal traumas. So if I had a surgery and I composed a really sad, haunting track, instead of me talking about my personal pain, I was gonna take the same music and try to put it within a story. So you'll feel the sadness, you'll feel the emotion, you're just gonna hear it within a story. And I do think it's that kind of redeems me from the inside and kind of let this negative emotion out.
Yeah.
I also do believe, and I don't know how this will sound, but we look in a specific way that we didn't choose. You were born into a body that you didn't really choose. Not necessarily hating it or loving it, but the fact you didn't choose. You're aging and you're not choosing that. That's also happening to you. You have a job, you might choose it, or it might just be the best thing you could do. I think my music is like the wavelength of my soul, and when I die, I want people to hear it and just feel my presence. And that's why I make music. It doesn't need to be a lot of music, just few tracks that actually captures the wavelength of my soul is more than enough for me.
Well, man, you definitely I believe your vision and what you're setting out to do, you are doing. And for those that can really open their heart to hear beyond the sound, I think it's going to be very enriching. You know what I mean? And I am just so happy you're doing it, man. Like I just commend so many artists who set out to create and to share a part of their soul. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing for people to do. I think this world needs that. I think the world needs you to do this because we got so many people that are just chasing things that are, meaningless, or they're too afraid to set out, or they're too afraid to speak. They're afraid that there'll be misunderstood. Of course, you might be misunderstood by a few people, but you're also going to have people that are going to understand and they're going to see and feel what you're trying to say. You know, it's really cool that this album from like first notice, you're looking at it and you're like Dark Tales of Zarathustra, but yet there's such a deep layer to it, multiple layers, you know? And speaking of, this album art, dude, is like one of the coolest album arts I have seen in a long time. What is happening on this album art? I'm looking
Oh,
at it now.
the dancer on the flames on the city.
Yeah.
We're actually lucky because I worked with a very talented artist. Her name is Joanne, and she's actually quite a celebrity in France when it comes to making album covers
Hmm.
in metal. Um, I was quite probably very frustrating for her because we went few iterations. I wanted just the album cover to be the prophet in flames dancing in this chaos and the city in the background. And I really don't know why. This is just was in my head. This is what I want as the album cover. Him dancing in flames, everything on fire. Um, I wanted the prophet to look kind of Middle Eastern Persian style. So
Hmm.
again, I'm trying to take elements from the culture and kind of merge it in this darker
Hmm.
tone. So we were lucky enough that after a few iterations that we've reached this cover, which I really liked.
It's it's amazing, man. I yeah, dude. I just wanna say thank you for taking time, man, to open up about this album, to open up about you, and I feel like this conversation is people are really gonna enjoy it, dude. And well done for a great debut album, and I am so excited for album two.
Thank you. I have to tell you something. I personally really appreciate this. It's really it means a lot to me. When I started making music, I thought I'm gonna have very few people listen to it. It's in my head, it's like metal music. Like there's a million release. From seeing the feedback right now, I do believe one day we might be famous. But trust me, this like first few people who reach out were kind to me. I'll never forget it. I'll always remember it for the rest of my life. And you have to know that in the ocean of ugliness in the world, this feels beautiful. So thank you for being a good person.
Man, it's an honor, dude. This is an honor for me, man, because I want the world to see you, and I want the world to hear you, and that's simply what I do. I love music, and I really appreciate the people that create it, and I want them to be heard, man. I think the world needs it.
Thank you.
So,
Very much appreciated.
absolutely.